Hello and welcome everybody to another episode here on North Country Ham. I appreciate everybody stopping by. Today's video will be going over a recent project I've been working on for a dual band dipole antenna that I 3D printed. So stick around. Alright, well I appreciate everybody sticking around. Again, as I said earlier, the video today is going to be on a recent project I've been working on for a dual band dipole for my vehicle that'll be concealed. So we'll get right into it here shortly. But again, hey, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, some of the builds I'm doing, any of the stuff I've got, I appreciate if you subscribe or at least give me a thumbs up on that video. I appreciate it. Any comments I always try to respond to. So with that, I'll kind of show you here. This is the insulator body, I guess you could say, for basically going to be for a center fed dipole. I've 3D printed this on my printer. I've got it kind of a dual use. I designed it and I've got it kind of test fit to work to fasten to one of the rails on the tonneau cover. You can see it's all 3D printed for an SO239 to mount in, and got your a spot for to put a couple of posts for the positive and negative, and then two holes on each side for each band to come out. Now I did put a loop on the top of this with an eyelet, so that way you could essentially hoist this up and hang this up and actually use it as a since it's not enclosed, I would say a temporary use dipole in the field or quick setup at the house, whatever you're doing. So again, I 3D printed this. I kind of did a couple of test fits and stuff. So I'll show you kind of. I started out initially design just a quick design like this. I did this actually on Tinkercad, just brainstorming, kind of putting some things together, and then I printed it so I could test fit my 239, and I found that I had to, one, increase the size of the hole. The dimensions I used were extremely tight tolerance, so I was like, I gotta go. I mean, it would have slid through if it wasn't for the threads. That's how tight of a tolerance I had, and I wanted to do some alignment for the 4 holes. So then I took some measurements, did some adjustments there in the program, and putting that on the tonneau rail, which I'll show in a little video, kind of the mount, how I'm going to put it onto the tonneau. I came up with this design where I've got little tabs that actually catch the side grooves, and I adjusted and reprinted the holes and did some adjustment there and added the eyelet, and found I still needed just a little bit more tweaking on the alignment and the size of the diameter for the 239. I didn't want to make huge adjustments all at one time, so I kept making small adjustments, and then found the best alignment and what needed to be done. And by trying to get this on the bed rail, I actually cracked it. Don't remember this side right here. You kind of see it in the camera. I cracked it trying to put it on, so I knew I didn't have enough tolerance for the span, and that both little tabs on both sides weren't going to work. So that's when a little more rework and alignment, and got this a little bit more of a span here, and I don't have the tabs on this side any longer, and I added 2 holes so that way you could go through the rail and mount it that way, or even studs fastened in through that catch the lip of the groove. So that was my thoughts there. So all these 3D printed parts I'm doing and I'm designing, I'm putting them on my Etsy shop. I've started for 3D printing and prototyping and stuff like that. There'll be a link below for that. So appreciate if you guys want to check out the shop. I'm always trying to add more items. A lot of the stuff that's in there right now is geared more toward amateur radio hobby and a little bit of scout stuff. I'm adding more of both each, as well as if you got custom prints that you want to try to get done, send the files and requests, and I can come up and see whether I could print it or not, and what the cost would be, and come up with an arrangement to do the print. So more to follow on that, but the link for that will be in the description below also. So let's scroll over to this here. So I basically have the spacer insulators. Being a 2 meter 70 cm, it's not going to be very big of a span, but at least this will be to end the 70 cm and still keep it spaced, and then continue on with the 2 meter. And essentially, if you want to try to do a larger dipole, you would just do more of these spacers to keep a reasonable, distance out through, depending on how big of the dipole you're doing. These were made as the end insulator to tie into, and then be able to tie off from. So that's what those are. Those are basically, I got the 2 holes for the wires to terminate at, and then a couple of holes to hook into and stretch off to the side. Got a little bit of hardware laid around here. I just wanted to kind of do a quick put together, just so you can see the concept. Get my 239 threaded with the 4 hole that I'm going to basically put through here, and it gets mounted into the bottom here. Got 4 small screws, and I'm only going to do one of these just to do a quick show. And I got 4 little lock washers and 4 little nuts. I can get it to thread on. Okay. Something wrong with that nut? Might be something wrong with the nut. Alright, so you can see I'm going to mount it basically that way, and I've already kind of had this on here a little bit, but I'm going to mount it 4 screws and nuts, and on one of these posts, probably this front one right here in the corner, with an eyelet, I'm going to run a short wire up to the one stud, and then I'm going to use my wire like this that I've already got pieces cut, you know, in through and over the stud, and then stretched out and tune it for it to be resonant. So, but I'm going to essentially mount this in here like this, 4 screws and nuts, and tighten them down, and I'll have one little eyelet crimped on the wire on the negative post, and obviously take my other shorter wire I've got and soldered into the center stud, and then to my wire. I'm just gonna, I haven't cut those to length or anything until I get everything set here. So that's gonna be how the center is gonna go. Thoughts on the insulator studs is I'm just doing them finger tight for right now. So I'm going to do this so it kind of keeps it nice and clean and gives a little support to the back of the printed part. But I'm going to put it like this, and when I run the wire off with an eyelet down over that nut, and then I'm going to tighten it down over the top of that eyelet with another nut like so, and cinch it down so that's nice tight contact and it's separate. And when the dipole wires are coming through to go on the eyelets onto them, and then I may put a spacer in between to kind of make sure it's a good contact, but then I'm going to wing nut it. And cinch it down, so that way you could take it apart if you needed to pack it up in the field. As long as you'll leave the main part, and all you got to do is put your wire leads tight then. So there's that. Of course, once that one's on, okay, there we go. Then I would cinch that down on the opposite contact, and then the other wing nut. Now I'm going to have wires kind of run so they're not going to be too much strain there, but there's not going to be any chance of it to make contact with the other, you know what I'm saying? But essentially that's what I'm going to be having. So you're going to have that inside. I may leave these longer to give some, you know what I mean, kind of run it almost like they're inside, run off the center and let it come up and around and maybe down to the opposite side, something to that effect. you know, and then do the opposite, so that way I can leave them longer, but they're in there. Gives you some room to make some changes. My first steps, I'll probably solder that to the center post and get these all mounted tight and mounted the negative on the other, and I might put a little bit of solder on there once it's all cinched just to make sure there's good contact. And once I get all that, I'll do a little resonance and tuning with it. So essentially, your other wires will come in through, and I'll have two of them. One set is cut for 40 and the other set is cut for 2 meter. So I'm just going to set them in here for right now. This is my 2 meter, and I'm going to probably do this where the 2 meter might be the bottom and the 70 at the top here, because once it's in the truck, it'll be like this up against the tonneau cover. So that way the 2 meter is going to be further away from any metal, because that's going to be my primary band. But we're going to have them like this, and one insulator, and then this will kind of run into it and be terminated back on itself once I trim it to be resonant. So I don't remember what it ended up being. It was like 9 inches or something like that length for the 70 cm, and it was like 19 and 3/8 or something like that for the 2 meter, and this will be the termination point on the 2 meter. And I'm tempted to run a piece of cordage or something between both of these at the second hole, just to keep a nice pull on the wire to keep it nice and tight. Another option could be to mount this with aluminum tubing and have it stiff, and then just trim the put some bolts sticking through here, nutted so they're tight, and then thread some tubing and where it threads right onto that, and you cut it to length there. So that's where I'm at with the project right now. Kind of do some assembly and testing, and we'll go from there. So there it is. That's kind of the status of where the project's at. I think it's going to be pretty neat. All right, so let's show you this little clip kind of under the tonneau cover, how it's going to be mounted. All right, well, kind of come out to show you a little bit here. Here's the recent printed part, where it's all cut out, pre-done on the printer for the 239, and actual dual outlet for the wires, as well as the hookups. And we'll kind of show a little bit of that as we go. But my intentions for this is to work in conjunction with my tonneau cover, so it's a hidden antenna. Unhook this here, open it up. My thoughts were to mount it where it goes onto this rail, last rail of my tonneau cover, which most any of them are going to have a rail like this. And that way I was going to basically put it on here. Get it where it hooks in both sides. There we go. Now I got a couple of holes here, so I could actually put like a bolt or something here, so it helps lock it in, or drill it and bolt it so it locks it in place. But my thoughts were to have it mounted obviously in the center of the bed, and bungee to the have my wires run cut for 2 meter and 440, and then bungee them to angle brackets inside so it's in there nice and tight. And when the tonneau cover is closed, the antenna would be hidden on the truck and be up out of the way. See, if we put it like in the center of the truck, we can see that it would be in the very back section of the tonneau cover here and kind of away from the rail a little bit and sprawled out, but where it's not hanging down, nothing's going to be impeding your bed. So that's my thoughts on it for now. All right, well, I hope you guys find all this pretty neat as far as the project goes. I appreciate you stopping in and checking things out. And again, the links to the Etsy shop and any of my other stuff that I got going is in the description below. Leave a comment, tell me what you're thinking. I appreciate you stopping by and watching along with me. Get on the air. 7-3.